Hey, what's up? In this series I'm going to show you how you can take this normal toaster model in Blender and turn it into a robot. We're going to do the modeling, the rigging and the animation, everything complete in this series. Okay, let's do the modeling part. In the last video I showed you how this rig works, so we have this kind of like the sketched out animation here. This is the idea that's going to happen, so it's going to catch the toast and then probably put it on a plate. And now we need some objects that we can parent to the bones. I'm gonna cut some things out here out of this toaster so it looks like it's actually part of the toaster, kind of like a transformer. Just not a big ass killer robot, but you know, it's a cute little toaster. So I moved this thing out of the way. I might make other wheels later on. We're gonna do that after this modeling part. For now I just want to have a lot of space so I can start cutting. And I'm just going to model the things here, kind of eyeball it based on the bones. And when everything is done, then I'm going to take the bones and position them perfectly, you know, position the endpoints perfectly with where it makes sense with the pivots of the mesh. You're going to see what I mean when we get to that. So for now, let's just start by selecting this toaster body, tap into edit mode, and my screencast keys are not on. I have this one selected here and I'm going to wait. Let's turn off Armature because I want to copy this geometry. I think it's way easier and smarter if we just copy geometry, work with that, and then in the end we're going to use a boolean and cut into this toaster. So that way we can always do lots of adjustments and, you know, make up for our errors. So I have this one selected, Shift D to duplicate, click to confirm, and P to separate by selection. Then I tap into object mode. Okay, let's make this a bit more round. So I'm going to tap into edit mode. And also one thing to notice, this is the object for two different bones, right? So I have this bone, it's going to be like this cylinder type thing, and then this bone, it's going to be like the arm. So I'm going to cut both out of this. So if I tap into side view here, I can see that this is the pivot. So this is where the arm should start. And one thing to note, it's going to be a lot easier if we have a vertical cut. That would actually be the easiest option. If we do like, say like this nice round cut, the problem is then when we rotate this, it's going to cut into the other mesh. Especially if it's not rotating around the exact same point where we cut, but the pivot might be more over here. So this the outer part, and then there's like a pipe in here, so the pivot is somewhere here. And that means every time the pivot of this rotation changes, it's going to cut into these, the meshes are going to cut into each other. Unless, of course, we do a perfectly vertical cut. Nice thing is it's actually not that easy to adjust that in the end, right? We can just select both objects, then select like the edges of both and then move them around. So I think for now it might be better if we just start with the easy one. So I'm going to go with K and hit A for angle constraints. So I do a vertical cut, select the bottom vertex here and hit enter to confirm that. So now I have this cut, and I know this is going to be one object, this is the other one. I'm going to go into side view again, and then I want to make these things nice and round. But there's one problem when I select the vertex now and I go Shift B and then V, oops, Shift B, sorry, Control B and then V, and I bevel this one, I get all these extra vertices. But if I extrude it and then only bevel this new edge, then I don't get all these extra vertices. So this is why I'm going to do the block out of the shape by moving the vertices around. Then we're going to extrude it, and then we're going to make it nice and smooth. So let me select a few ones, just make it a bit more into this shape. So GG to go into edge slide. And of course here it's up to you whatever shape you want to make, right? So I'm trying not to go too different from the original one. So like I wanted to stick out a little bit out of the toaster, but not too much. I think that would just look cool. And I think we can delete those vertices. So X, delete vertices. Maybe move those three out. GG. Shouldn't have deleted them, but I can move edge slide in this direction, hit C, and then I can slide like this. And maybe even the same here, GG. C, so it's not clamped in the other direction. Just a bit of a circle shape, GG. And we don't need those vertices here, but if I select this and hit Control X, well, then we get this wicked n-gon. But I can go to edge mode, select this one, and then Control X, then we still have quads. But yeah, to be honest, I don't really care about quads here. But for now, let's just move a few things around here. GG. Whoops. That was one G too little. Might even select those two. G. No, it's not gonna do that. So I have to select this, GG. Yeah, I think that's good enough for a blockout. Let's split it and then extrude it. So first I go into face mode, select, no wait, that's the one I'm gonna split. So select here, P separate by selection. I tap into object mode. So now I have two selected, tap back into edit mode. Right, so I have these two, what is going on here? No, it's looking good. This edge slide created a really ugly twist. So let's try to fix that a little bit. Not the end of the world, but you know what? GX. Let's make it a little bit like this. Let's see. And then I select all, and I'm going to extrude, and I have to extrude on the X, because if I only do this now, and don't worry that it's wet, that's the face orientation. Like right now, you can see it's actually cutting into each other, right? So we have to extrude on the X axis. You say E and then X, and then just a little bit. It's only like the outer hull. I want the mechanics below there. So it's no longer cutting into each other. And what you just saw with the face orientation here, it's the wrong side. So 3A, Shift N to recalculate normals, and now it's looking good. The pivot is over here, so I select this one, and then I have this shortcut by the machine tools, free around. So I go in here, Shift P, it's the origin pi. I just put it on the Shift P and can select to geometry. Otherwise, you can go in here, Object, set origin, origin to geometry. I do the same one here to geometry, and I'm just doing that right now to just test things out, because obviously in the end they are connected to the bones, so their own origin doesn't matter at all. And now I can say RY, I can rotate on the Y axis, and of course now it does not cut in. And what I meant before with the problem when we move it, because let's see, I select this one, I've all selected GX, I just want to move it out so I can move the origin. I could even copy this, let's see, Control C, tap into, whoops, come on, tap into object mode and say GX, just click anything, and then I click here, Control V, paste it, go minus, so I moved it perfectly back, and the origin is here. So now if I go RY, rotate around this thing, that still works, right? So RY, let's see, yeah, because we had this nice cut. Okay, now let's try to model the mesh a bit more based on the actual armature that we have. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this, and I just want to have one pose that I can use as reference and move around. And I don't want to mess with this toast grab. It's just a sketch, but I might use that later on as a reference for the actual animation. So first thing I'm going to make a fake user, because now I duplicate this. And so this is a new animation. I call this reference. Let's also make this fake user, because right now no one's using the toast grab anymore. So if I were to close Blender without having this on, then the animation is gone. That would be pretty frustrating. Now I have this selected. I go into pose mode, select all bones, 7 to go into top view, let's say G, X, and I just move it out a bit. Just makes modeling so much easier. you can see this is where the pivot is going to be. See, we can model this one around. Maybe even move this a bit here. So I think I want to have a cylinder that goes across here, and here it's just cut, right? So it might be a bit bigger on the bottom part, and then here it's a bit smaller. And then the cylinder is attached to this thing. So I select all bones, A, I, and then I insert location and rotation. So now if I go back in object mode, it's still here. And I can also go into the object properties, not the armature, unfortunately. This way you choose what kind of bones you want to see. But if you go to the object properties, you can also select how you want them to be displayed. So here under viewport display, I choose wire. I think that's a lot easier. And now I'm just going to eyeball it. I can zoom in to make it more precise, and I shift, right click, have the cursor here. In object mode, I can say Shift A, M for mesh, and Y for cylinder. And then I rotate RX 90, scale this in a lot. And let's tap, no, not tap in edit mode, GY, move it here. Again, just eyeball it. Right, we're gonna do the perfect positioning of the bones later on, but this is... And I think you could actually get away with just doing like that, because no one's gonna notice these tiny imperfections from like this distance. Actually, you can't even tell it from here. Anyhow, 7 top views. So now we can go in here. I'm gonna go 1 vertex and Alt Z, so I can select like all of the vertices here. Just go like GY. Now select all of those. Automate is turned off. Shift D, click to confirm. P, separate by selection. Tap into object mode. And let's try to select the new one. Yep, we have. So 7 on the numpad. Tap into edit mode. V, face mode. A, select all. And then we can make this a bit bigger. So maybe S, scale it. And then E, extrude it. And let's see, all the way here. Object mode, I think that's okay. And yeah, so this is all cartoony, stylized, right? So I might just extrude the mesh and call it like done or something. I'm not gonna go too crazy here. And now we can see what we want to do with this. So maybe tap here, select this one, GY. I'm gonna go to top view, G. I might even connect it just here. Yeah, I think that's okay. So let's just make it a little bit more interesting. And so I insert E, extrude, maybe a wing, so it's like this. Then I select Alt click this edge loop, Alt E, extrude faces along the normals. I have a custom shortcut, Control Alt L, and just drag it out a bit. Maybe not as big as the original pipe, something like this, and then maybe E, I, and then insert in this way. Right, so we have some kind of thing here. And of course we can shade smooth, so I have hard ops installed, so I can just go Q, click sharpen. Otherwise you have to go shift, right click, shade smooth, and then in the auto normals turn this on and probably increase it a bit. Hard ops does this in one click, which is very nice because I basically want this on every object that I have. Okay, so we have this pipe, and we can of course connect this in here. I go Q, sharpen, and maybe make the bottom ring a bit bigger. So Control R to loop cut, Alt, or Alt L or Alt E if you don't have a shortcut. Something like this, not like this, because I just saw it peeking through. That's not so good. Maybe E is inward a bit, and yeah, I mean, no one's really gonna see that part, to be honest. Now let's figure out how we're going to connect this part. We could just have a cylinder here that connects like this. Yeah, I think we can do that. So right click here, and I already have a cylinder. Okay, that was the sketch from before. Let me see. That's the ball joint. Yeah, I'm gonna do that again so you see how to do it. But okay, for now, so this one's here, 7, top view, Shift A, MY, cylinder S to scale it in. And I'm making the cylinder that is connected to this part still, right? And then we're gonna extrude some kind of arm. So let's see, maybe not this tall, as Z. C, I think it could even be bigger, so as Shift C. Oh, and it should of course not stick out. Let's check. We go to side view, yeah. So it still fits into this toaster robot. And yeah, notice I made a bit of a mistake because I only looked at it from the top view. So now, of course, when I set the cursor, I didn't really do the height. What you can do to make it exactly where the bone is, you can go into pose mode, select the bone, you go like Shift S, cursor to select it. Yeah, it's gonna put it at the top here, but if I select this one, Shift S, cursor to select it, well, this works better. And let's go into top view. Let's select those two and then G, Z, move this exactly here. So G, Z. Yeah. Again, we're gonna do the bones to the... Again, in the end, we're gonna set the bones to the mesh. And let me select this one, Shift S, cursor to select it, so it's here. And here I can actually go now, Shift S, selection to cursor. So move it here. If I go into the side view, yeah, now it's looking a lot better. Okay, now I want to connect this thing here so it's not just weirdly floating. And let me just select a bunch of faces. I'm just gonna hit E, extrude. Make sure we're not peeking through. We are peeking through. So E, extrude. Let's go into top view, and if I rotate, it's just gonna look weird. But what I can do is if I hit pivot key, I choose 3D cursor as the pivot, and I click maybe here, and then I rotate. See, now I can move it much nicer. So I have this thing, and of course it would look cool if this is connected, this pipe. So select this one, E, extrude. And as I mentioned before, I'm not even gonna bother like combining the geometry. Like this is a small thing, this is stylized, you don't need to think all that stuff. So Q, sharpen. Let's make this a bit more interesting. Maybe loop cut here, and then I'm gonna Control B. Whoops, bevel this loop cut, but one should be enough. Face mode, and I deselect those faces. Yeah, Control Alt L, extrude along normals, maybe like this, and then even make it a bit prettier. Select this edge, GG, edge slide. Yeah, no one's gonna see that. But they might take a look at it, so let's, okay, GG, move it here. And here I'm gonna do more details once we have the basic block out, so I don't do details and then figure out actually the details. They should not be here because, you know, Doesn't work that way. Okay, now we need a pipe that moves towards this thing. So let's see. And of course it should be rotating around the Z-axis here. So there are two main ways to do this. Either I make this new pipe like on the outside or on the inside. Yeah, let's just do the outside because I often do the inside. Now I just have something new. And unfortunately here, we can try if I go Alt E and there is this extrude manifold. Sometimes, oh yes, sometimes it works, and when it does, it's awesome. Right, because if you just go extrude, you have this wicked edges, so Alt E, extrude manifold. Sometimes you think, oh, it should work, but then it doesn't. But yeah, it's relatively new in Blender, so I'm just grateful that it exists. Now I select those two. To inset a bit, maybe even extrude inwards, so Alt E, so they're both going inside. I to inset, holding down Shift, make it a tiny bit smaller, and now I have those two. And of course, Shift D, duplicate, click confirm. I think I moved my mouse. So yeah, Shift D, click to confirm, don't move your mouse. P, separate by selection. And this is going to be our arm. So tap into object mode, I select the new one, select this, and 3. Again, extrude along normal, so we're going up and down. That was too much. And I'm gonna see how much room we have left here. If I go Alt Z, yeah, we can extrude this. Like I'm just trying not to get past this thing here. And I'm also gonna smooth this out. But again, we're gonna do that afterwards. So in here, what we can do now. Let's just play around a bit. So E, insert, E. Might even try a bevel. Yeah, why not? Why not? Maybe then select this one. I insert to make this a lot smaller. So E. Yeah, this we can do it here. It doesn't have to be perfectly the same. Kind of forgot what I did there. Yeah. So like this. Then this is the part that's gonna move around. And then of course it needs to happen. So we can select yeah, then it's gonna cut through. So let's loop, no wait. Let's go into front view. And then we're gonna go Control R, loop cut, and move this down so it's a tiny bit above. Same here, Control R, loop cut, move it up so it doesn't cut into each other. And then here I'm gonna go 3 and select a bunch of faces to extrude. And here this one, it barely matters because we can easily rotate this thing around. Right, you can extrude here, it doesn't matter. Okay, so 2, 4, 5. Let's see if this is thick enough. So I'm just gonna go like E. Extrude, it's kind of thin. Let's make this one face thicker, so maybe one more here, one more here. And I'm just gonna go now extrude. Something like that, just to make sure it's in the same direction. Because now I can tap into object node, period, to go back to individual origins as the pivot. And it's still here, right? So if I go into top view and I rotate, you can just go like here. And again, this is just eyeballing. We're gonna do the perfect positioning afterwards. But I think this actually works quite nicely. So if I tap into edit mode, I still got those selected. So let's see. I could even just extrude more, and then yeah, for this part, you know what? No. And here it might actually make sense if we make this thing a bit thinner, because then we have more room to rotate this part around. So let's do that. Let's keep it at that. We might even go past that. I can go like this: one edge slide, Alt Z, GG, and just slide them back. And it could also be like asymmetrical. We extrude this part here to this forward thing. Okay, now comes the ball joint, and there's a bit of a problem, and that is a ball joint shouldn't really be able to rotate by 90 degrees, right? Because you have this like this sphere, and to make the grabbing look believable, you kind of want more than half of the sphere to be like surrounded by something, so it's sitting inside it. Think of it like I think a shoulder joint is somewhere in the human body. There are joints, they're kind of like this, I think, in the hip. But you have a ball, and that has to be surrounded by something reasonably big. Maybe body was a bad example because you have muscles and tendons and all that thing. But for here, yeah. So one thing we can do is we're just gonna do it a little bit. We're gonna cheat a little bit. We're just gonna use half of the sphere. And the second thing is we're just gonna have the mesh sometimes maybe cut a little bit into itself, and hopefully no one's gonna notice. So yeah, that's my plan. And we also don't really need this one to be rotated that crazy. So let me select the armature here and maybe change that a bit. So I go in here, and this is the one. So RZ, and it's not rotating. Let me take a look. Oh, that's the copy rotation. I can disable that. No, wait, let me enable that. And here, I'm just gonna go I and make this 0. Again, this is the arm reference pose, right? So I'm not messing up anything. And then I can go RZ, and let's see, I think this should be doable. It's not exactly 90 degrees. And for the modeling, it might actually be easier if we choose a perfect rotation. Let's align this, so RZ. Just make it 0. I'm gonna hit I, location and rotation. That's for the modeling part, right? And now once again, we're gonna select this bone, Shift S, cursor to selected, and then object mode. Let me delete this one. I just want to show you how I did. Whoops, that was a lot. We only do. Oh, this one's parented to it. I'm gonna do that as well. What I can do here is I go Alt P, clear parent, and keep transformation. Then I delete this one. Okay, now I'm gonna go Shift A, mesh, and I have is quad sphere here. That is again the mesh machine tools, super useful add-on, because I can make a sphere that's out of quads, and just makes things a bit easier. I choose 3 subdivisions, scale it down, down. Shouldn't really be too big, maybe like this. I think that's okay. Tab into edit mode. I'm gonna go into Alt Z so I can select all vertices, and I want faces. Let me select those. Yeah, I think for our purpose only selecting half is good. So I'm gonna go Shift D, duplicate P, separate by selection, tab into object mode. Select this one, VA select all, and then Alt Control L, extrude along normals, so we get something like this. Alright, so this is the ball joint holder, and then the other one, that's the ball joint. And then I can select that. Whoa, that gets confusing. Alt Z, let me go into isolation mode here and just select maybe those, maybe a bit more. Yeah, just select some faces that I can extrude. This might be a bit thin, maybe. Well, it doesn't have to be a square, right? So maybe just select those and then tap out of isolation mode. And then I'm going to extrude this. Just go E. And now I have to position that. So F1 object mode. Also, I want a sharp edge here. So let me go into, wait, first of all, I go Q, sharpen. Ah, that worked. Okay. Hardops is the best. And of course, I can just rotate this, not care about this one's rotation because it's a sphere. This one should be aligned with this thing here. And yeah, let's just eyeball that. I think it doesn't matter too much if it's not perfectly aligned here. So I select this one, 7 front view, and I start rotating like this. That looks like. And then I shift select this one, Control J, so now they are one object, tap into edit mode, / isolation mode. And yeah, I can just do a bunch of things here. I think it might actually look nicer if this arm is solid in the middle. What does it? Yeah, to be honest, I don't know. You know what? That's a detail we can do afterwards in the second pass. Let's just continue with the grab arm. So we have this ball and now we want this kind of thing. And I'm gonna try to do that again so you see how it's done. And let's just model this straight and then we're gonna align it to the bones. So I have this one selected. I'm gonna go Shift A and make a circle, and I'm in edit mode, right? So this circle is a little bit too big. So RX90. Oh, I'm in face mode and I should select the face. So 2 and then I'll go RX90. And let's scale this in a bit. Like that. GY, move it out. Maybe like this. We can also try to pay attention to the bones here. So but anyhow, this is the end of the chain, so it doesn't matter too much. Now here 2, I'm gonna hit F, make a face, insert that just so I have more geometry. We can easily connect that, but you know what, let's make this face a bit more. I'm gonna turn off face orientation, it's distracting. Select all of that. E to extrude, S, scale it up a bit, E to extrude. This might already be enough, maybe make it inward a bit, E, get more interesting. You know what, no, actually there should be the fingers, so it might make more sense if it's scaling inward. And maybe, yeah, scale this so it's nice and round. We can extrude this, we can also scale that. Then E, Control B, maybe one bevel. I'm just making random shapes here, as you can probably tell. Maybe extrude a ring. Okay, something like that. Q, sharpen. Yeah, actually. Let's get this one. And to connect this very easy, we can, I think it makes more sense to select stuff of this cube. I'm going to Alt Z, might be easiest. Let's go side view. Yeah, select it. Select those, and then Alt Z. And I can just extrude it. Looks pretty small, but yeah, it shouldn't be too big, because the bigger I make this pole, of course, the more I limit my rotation, or rather than like the easier it's gonna start cutting into the holder. Let's see if it looks too thin. I'm gonna go to object mode. Yeah. What we can do, we can make this thing a lot thinner, because then it doesn't look so heavy. And the easiest way would probably be 3, select all of those, shift select, and then go, maybe even Control plus, increase the selection, go GY, move this up, Control minus, GY, and I'm even gonna make this smaller, so I select all of this with L, scale it in a bit, because we can make the fingers bigger, right? GY, move it like that. Let's see how we're doing with the original bones, something like that. Bone was here, yeah. Looks okay. And then of course we can extrude stuff here, so maybe if I select those two, maybe even those. And I'm gonna go Control Alt L, and just gotta be careful, because you know, at some point those edges are gonna cut into each other. Extrude it, and I can select those two and GG. Yeah, that looks good. So I'm gonna do it with all of those. Could also bevel the sharp edge, could also not do anything. GG. Moving it in. Yeah, speaking of the fingers, we can do that. Let's select that 7. Let's go in here and select some geometry for the fingers. And I'm tempted to make this big, because as I mentioned, I don't like the other part. So that would kind of then hide, it would hide the shape. Let's select those. Let's see, front view, control 1. Which ones do I want? I'm gonna select from the top. Yeah, definitely 4. 4 sounds good. So those 4 here and here. And as I mentioned in the rigging video, I don't need all the fingers. I can just use a mirror on the mesh. So I'm only gonna select 2 fingers here. So let me deselect that. And then I have those. And same thing, Shift D, click P, separate, and new object, tap into it, select it, tap into this one. I'm gonna select, I'm gonna go A, select all, and then deselect the front faces. So I'm gonna go Control Alt L once again, whoops, wrong direction. Move this out a bit. Oops, I hadn't selected those. Control Alt L. Then I select the front faces. You can just go normal extrude. E. Now let's take a look at the wig, and so of course the finger is going to move on the Z-axis, right? So we need some kind of joint that the finger can go like this. That makes sense. I think the easiest way is to just cut into this thing, and I'm about to freakishly... this is starting to get annoying. Let's tap in here too. Shift S cursor to selected, F1 object mode, Shift A M C. Now we have a cube right there. Scale this in, scale it in. And also I just decided I'm not gonna model this thing, I'm just gonna model this and then, you know, duplicate it. And I can just shift select this one, and then with the bool tool add-on that comes with Blender, just have to enable it. You can go Control minus. Okay, now it's cutting in. Let's see, GY with even more. We need this finger joint. And then we also want to cut into this one, right? So this one says selected, shift select this one and go Control minus. So now they both have a Boolean modifier and they want to reduce this cube. Let's select, shift select this, shift select that, slash to go into isolation mode, and then I select the cube and I can move it around a bit. Let's see, orientation, global, GY. And we have to be a bit careful because, yeah, see this what happened. This one is not a closed shape, right? If I go into isolation mode here, but if we are just careful, my ISO mode, let's see, as Z, go in here, GY, a little bit more, SY, and GY, maybe even move down, yeah. Okay, so this way it stops working, but you know, we don't need that much space here. To try to make it more interesting, maybe tap into edit mode of the cube, Control R, move this up, and then Control R, make this one here, and then we can select this maybe, this face, and Alt Z, so we can select this face, and let's do long normals, and yeah, okay, seems to work, seems to work. And I think this is good enough, right? So we can have the fingers in here, just make them a little bit smaller, and then they can nicely rotate around that. So let's step out of this. And we can actually apply that. So let me select. And now I want to apply this, but of course I want to cut in all four sides here. And I think the easiest way is to bring the cursor here. So tap into this one, select this, and then go like Shift S cursor to selected. This way it's here. Object mode, select the Boolean object, tap into edit mode, and go Shift D R Y 90. And now the cool thing is you can just go Shift R, hit that twice, so we repeat that action. And yeah, F1 object mode, and now we can go ahead and apply this Control A. Same here, Control A. And now I delete the Boolean object, and we have like the finger cut in. We could bring this a tiny bit to the front so we don't have this overlap. So GY, just like the tiniest bit, GZ, tiniest bit, And here we could do SX. Again, just, you know, tiny bit, so now it's not overlapping. Okay. Okay, time for some fingers, and that will also be the last part here of our object. Let's see. You know what? Before we do the fingers, let me duplicate this here, and we still have the cursor here, so we can just go. Let's step into object mode, edit mode. 3A, select all faces, Shift D, R, Y, and 180. Okay, cool. So now this, god damn it. Oh no, it's cutting through this. I thought someone was missing. Nice. Okay, so we have this one fixed. For the fingers, so let's take a look at our bones. So we have a reference. Wow, the fingers are freaking huge. That's the finger bone. Oh, we should also parent this. Shift click and then Control P, set parent to object. And here we need the fingers, and let's see, they are pretty freaking big. So I'm just going to use that as a reference to like how big I want those. A lot. Let me select this one. I'm just gonna make the finger out of this, I think. Should I? No, I should. Shift as cursor to selected, at least that. Now it's here. So Shift A, M, C. We have a cube. We have inside the cube. So scale it inward. Scale it, scale it, scale it. Make sure it fits in here. Okay, and then we can move it GY. Tap into, what's it called? Edit mode? Maybe isolation mode. I just want to bevel these, oops, these sides, because then it's not gonna cut in that easily, right? So it can easily rotate. Tap in here, 3 face mode, select this face. Let's look how big the finger should be. We can just extrude it. Kind of like this, but this should be here, so E, oops, oh, maybe it's just GY. And around here, we're going to need a second finger also with a rotation around the Z axis. So we need to join like this. We could just go here, Control R, click it, Control B, bevel it. One bevel is enough. And here I want this to be inside. Maybe Control R, loop cut one more time. And I'm just gonna try this Alt E manifold. Wow. Actually, it's gonna give us weird geometry. Instead, let's go extrude along nodes. Extrude this inward, and we can hit S to make it even. That gives us a different shape. Let's make it smaller, smaller, smaller. Yeah, let's just do that. And then I select this one, GY, move that inward. So yeah, this, and then we can do some, you know, adjusting maybe here. Control B, make this round. Maybe select those two. So like, I have to be super careful to not, yeah, destroy geometry, and then extrude along normals. And maybe even, let's scale it. Pivot should be individual origins, S to scale. Okay, and let's not get hung up on details too much, and instead keep moving on. So I want something inside here. The cursor is still there, so I could just go Shift A, M, C for a cube. Once again, scale it in. Make it smaller, GY, bring it in here, so S to scale. Let's see how big it is. Maybe even Yeah, like this. Okay. And here we can just do the same. Right? Select this one. Isolation mode to not lose the sanity. Control B. And bevel this in. Step out of it. And then this can be the second finger, so E, just extrude it. Let's take another look at the reference, so GY. And I think I needed them to be a bit bigger and smaller and so on, but you know what, for now, and we could actually bend this. So let's go in here, select those two, isolation mode, side view. I think this might look a bit more interesting. And I tap into edit mode for both, and then here I just go, let's make a few loop cuts. Maybe like, let's give me 5, and then I go O to enable proportional editing. And I alt click this edge loop. Then I go G, Z, and decrease the proportional editing. I want the tip to not be influenced. Does that look good? Not really, but okay, let's select this one, GZ. It doesn't really look good, okay, to be honest. I am going to leave it at that. I think what we could do here is maybe rotate this, right? So like, have this rotated a bit, and just try to make it a bit smoother. Okay. And we could even bevel this a tiny bit, so it's, you know, it's a gentle robot. And this is of course where you can do some details, so maybe I insert this, E, and then just whoops, turn off proportional editing, scale this in, something like that. I could have like maybe I insert those, maybe even inward. Just a few details, make it look more robotic. And here we could maybe select those 3. I to insert. Oh, we should do that on both sides. I to insert, and then E. Oops, now we have to go Alt E extrude along normals, so we can go inside on both sides like this. We might scale it in. Looks a bit smoother. Yeah, okay. Take a look at the side view. All of this is inside. That's looking good. Okay. Okay, now it's time to parent the objects to the bones. And the easiest way to do that, or rather the most precise way to do that, is to do it in edit mode, because then you can move the tips and endpoints of the bones and you can place them perfectly. A little problem here is when I go into edit mode, the bones are rotated like this, and it would be a bit easier if we have them already here. 2 ways around this. One, I could just say it doesn't matter, I'm just gonna move the bones anyway. Or I could go in here, choose A, and then go Control A, apply pose as rest pose. That is going to mess up my animation, but I'm going to do it anyway because I don't really care. The animation was just a blockout, right? So as soon as this starts, everything moves here. And now I can go in here and say Alt, G, and R. And now this is the original pose. And let me just insert this real quick. Right here I'm on frame 0, right? Just reference one, so I'm gonna I and say location and rotation, so I can always come back to that. And if I go in edit mode, it's the same. I'm gonna move the entire object here, so GX, move this out a bit so it's kind of the same. And now the process is quite simple. I just need to figure out where on this mesh are these pivot points. So for example, I want to place, let's see, the tip of this bone should be in the middle of this one, and then that's the start of the bone, that's the tip, and this tip of course should be in the middle of this circle, right? So I'm gonna select this one, tab into edit mode, and I can also go into isolation mode here. And so for the four, let's see, 2, 4, 2, 3. Okay, I need to select those two. Now if I go Shift S, cursor to selected, tab out of this mode, and I select the bone, object mode. Come on, select the bone and select the tip. Now I can say Shift S, selection to cursor. And now I do the same with the other part. So select this one, and to get the circle, we could go in here and maybe those two. And I must say Shift S, cursor to selected, object mode, out of isolation mode, tab into the edit mode of the bone, and go in here and say Shift S, selection to cursor. So that is the principle how we're gonna get all those bones exactly where we want them to be. And I think I'm just gonna speed through this because there really isn't much to it. It's a bit of like, you know, just trying to figure things out. And here for the fingers, we can even ignore that it's rotated. We could rotate this or the bones, but we could also just go in here and, you know, just figure out the pivot of this. So that would be in the middle of those two. Shift S, cursor to selected, object mode, select this one, and Shift S, selection to cursor. And now that I have these bones positioned correctly, I can actually delete the other ones because, you know, they were differently, and it's much easier to just duplicate those. So I delete this bone and delete that bone. Make sure they are named correctly. Totally not. Let's call it finger root. Oh, this one finger. And this one, that was my bone control. We can do that afterwards. I'd actually rotate this one. And okay, so now these two bones, they rotate. We can adjust that in a moment. So now let's actually do the parenting. Right, we're gonna do that in post mode. So in here, okay, this one's still there. Let's go A, and then we say Alt R G. Okay, those bones are looking good. The fingers behaving differently, and I think that's because of the IK, but we can just turn that off. Just disable it here, and okay, now they're all at the right position. And the IK changed because I rotated this, and yeah, let's adjust that after we do the parenting, because we don't need that right now. And now it's also pretty simple. I select this bone, shift select this one, and it's in post mode. So now I can say Control P, set parent to bone. Alright, now I do the same with this thing. Shift select this one. Now this is the selected bone. Control P, set parent to bone, and just go through this thing. And here we have this. Control P, bone. Control P, bone. Boom. Oh, and if this happens and the bone is just too big, you can go to edit mode and say, I think Alt S, nope, Control Alt X, no, Alt S, that's it. I can scale it now and maybe scale the finger a bit more. Okay, back in object mode, I select this one, shift select, come on, shift select the bone. Go into post mode, select the actual bone, and then Control P, to object to bone, and one more time here, object mode, shift select the bone, post mode, and here Control P to bone. Okay, I think okay. Now let's just see if this actually worked. We could. If I move this, looks good. I can rotate this. Now, of course, it's locked on the wrong axis, but as I said, we're gonna fix that. Rotate here around the Z. That would look a lot better. Let's see here. Right, I know I can rotate around all axes now, but of course, oh, we should actually parent. Let's let me go back. Let's select A and Alt G. This one isn't parented to this one, so let's do that now. Control P to object. Okay, one more time. One more time, going into post mode and R, and okay, this looks good. No, this one also needs to be parented. And of course, we can always rotate it any way we want, and I'm not even gonna lock the bones here. I'm not gonna do like a stupid rotation. The important thing is just that the IK knows which axes are locked. Let's do a little bit more details here before we do the cutting. So I'm gonna select this one, two to go into edge mode. Maybe select those two. Let's see, Control B, increase this one. It's nice and smooth. I can even smooth those ones out. Not a lot of room here. Control B. Ugh. If we can get this one. Yeah, that's all we got. But you know what? I think that looks okay. So that in here, and I think what would also be cool if this is a bit smoother. Control B. Yeah, it's not gonna be the same shape. Actually, let's do less, and let's also select those ones. So here, Control B. Whoops, and I'm gonna hit C to clamp so that doesn't happen. So I can just drag it out as much as I want, hit the maximum. Okay, so we have this shape, and of course this could be nice and round. Mentioned before, I might keep this edge. Yeah, I think I'm gonna keep this one sharp, but I select the other ones. Those, Control B, maybe not even that many, and just make it smooth. This one looks a bit boring. Maybe we can, let's see, let's tap into edit mode. Oh, and also this is floating in the air. That might not be very nice. So maybe just to look here. Extend this. Control B. Sounds an awful lot like we don't have uniform scale, and this happens with the beveling. So let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna go back and then object mode, Control A, apply scale. Tap back in and Control B, and that looks better. And maybe even there's this thing between those two. So here, maybe even move this. Control R. Yeah, I'm just gonna have a bunch and then maybe bevel those. Maybe not this one. Yeah, so not this one. So Shift, Alt click those two, and then I'm gonna go Control B, just one. Didn't want to have that selected. Control B. Now just trying out a few things. So maybe E, extrude, just to not have this be so thin. Maybe even let's not actually extend this too much, but then just bigger here. Maybe this. Let's say there's some kind of interest, right? So E. Might even extrude this all the way. Yeah, I'm gonna extrude all the way because I don't want to have like these big gaps in here. So I think one gap here is okay, but then you know you're not looking through all the time. So just keep it at that. And this thing looks a bit ugly and also looks a bit weak, so we can maybe do a few more things. So I'm gonna select those. Now, of course, the danger is everything that we add here might reduce the range of motion, like as soon as we start extruding this way, but I think we still got a bit of wiggle room left. So let's just go in here. And you know what, let's actually play it safe and duplicate this. So I select those and then control click. Could have used the mirror modifier, I'm noticing now, but I'm already done. So I'm gonna say Shift D, duplicate, piece, separate, tap, select it, and tap into it. So in case that ruins our animation, we can just delete it or modify this a lot easier. Now I select, actually let me select all, and then I'm gonna deselect those. And just extrude. Extrude along normals. And yeah, let's risk making this a little bit bigger. And of course, parent this one. Shift select, Control P, parent to object. Now it's parented. Okay, I really don't like this part, but you know what? I'm just call it a day and. Now, of course, we need to make a hole in the toaster. I think the easiest way is just select those two, Shift D, duplicate. Let's move it GX, and let's go into isolation mode. Select those And I just want to extrude these faces here. Make sure to select all of those. So E to extrude and then X on the X-axis and just, I mean, we can make this a lot deep. We just don't have to move it all the way in, right? And now I select this and I'm trying to make it a tiny bit bigger. So let's actually look at it from here and Alt Z. I'm going to scale and yeah, let's choose median point. As the pivot, so scale, make it bigger, maybe even scale it a tiny bit all axis, and then SZ on the Z axis, and yeah, kind of running out of space here. Now I can just have this selected and shift select the toaster body and go Control minus thanks to the bool tool, and we're seeing quite a lot of the inside, to be honest, which I wanted to hide, but yeah. Now let's pick the armature, but in object mode, so I can just say GX and wait. Oh, that's parented. Let's go in here and say Alt P clear parent and keep transformation because we copied this one. So armature in object mode and go GX, and I just realized I haven't parented this one to this bone. I can just parent it to the object, doesn't matter. Control P, object, GX, move it in, and let's just see how that looks. Maybe hide this one for the positioning. Okay, so this part also needs to cut by the two different objects. So let's see where I was here. I'm gonna go shift select this one, control minus, and yeah, it doesn't really work. So let's have an edit mode. I'm gonna select this and I just want to extrude. Those faces and just hope. Come on. Nope. What's happening? Let's try the good old from fast to exact. Nope. Just gives us really bad shading. It doesn't want to cut it. Check the face orientation. Oh! On a side note, just realized this one is rotated differently. So VA Shift N solved. Tab VA Shift N. Okay. Okay, so this boolean refuses to cut in here. Let's see if we. So once we start moving it, so GX. Nope. GY. Yep. Okay, so we just had to move it a tiny bit on the y-axis. It just happens with booleans sometimes. It's just what they do. And let's hide this one. Also gonna turn off face orientation. GX and move this inside. See how that looks. And yeah, as I said before, I want this bit of like sticking out, right? So it's like if you don't really know what's gonna happen, there's some kind of thing here, but yeah. See how far we have to go out to move. Yeah, even more, to be honest. GX. That's how far we have to go. So first things first, I'm just gonna extrude this one here. And extrude it all the way. Just gotta make sure the X is not sticking out. Okay, it isn't. That would be bad. So I'm going to apply the Boolean here. Say Control A and apply this one first, and this one. Okay. And I'm gonna select this, tap into edit mode, isolation mode, and with 2 I'm gonna alt click, and it doesn't select the edge, so I have to do it manually. Great. Okay. I'll hit EX and extrude on the X-axis. I can just go in here and say like F, fill it with a face, GX, move it here. Okay, let's just see. Blah. Yeah, so much for not cleaning up the geometry. That's a pretty wicked angle. Yeah, we can do some cuts, of course. But yeah, just a few cuts, really. This is not something where people are going to look. And, you know, there might not even be a lot of light. This might be pretty dark, so. And when you can't see it, it doesn't have to look good. But yeah, I'm just gonna cut it a few times to make this not that horribly bad. And let's tap in here and let's see GX. And here I'm just gonna extrude a little bit inward so it doesn't look like there's clearly only like a little bit of space, but maybe, you know, if we select those and then E, extrude like this, maybe this can extrude so it looks like there's some space, and then maybe for this head there's actually more space, and let's ignore the fact that this is the toast, and I think that just looks more like the inside of a machine or something. God almighty, that shading is this sharp? Ah, we could actually resharpen. Nope. But yeah, let's keep it at that. I think this we can get away with that. So comes out, and then it does its own unfolding, rotating part, and yeah. Okay, I think this is actually it for this video. In the next one, I'm going to do the animation, you know, catch the toast and maybe do some extra modeling here. And you know, I think we're gonna do like a Polish pass afterwards where I do this wheel. Yeah, I really like the idea of having like maybe like 2 or 3, and they're like running really. One is running really fast, one is at medium. Maybe even have like different indicators, so it doesn't even make sense. Anyhow, that's all for the future. For this one, thank you very much for watching. Of course, liking this video, subscribing, that really helps a lot. If you have any questions or maybe suggestions what you want to see, just let me know in the comments. Thank you and goodbye.